episode of our new podcast about movies. We are going to call it the Snowden Watch List for now until we possibly come up with a better title. This is Ethan and I's project about watching movies because we tend to get a lot of questions about should I actually watch this classic movie? And, you know, we're willing to take the one for the team and really watch those old films for you and see, is it really worth watching?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people have said that we should start a film podcast. I can remember at least 2 people.
Oh, at least 5 for me.
Oh, well, you're more popular than I am. So
do those 7 people. Thank you.
But yeah, so like there's a lot of people that have said, you know, that they respect our opinions on film. And so I guess this is our attempt at doing that. Neither of us have taken a film class or really done any sort of deep dive research on film, but we have a good respect for it, I think. And I think we have the mindset that makes a decent film critic.
Yeah, we're 2 amateurs who just genuinely love movies, and I think that it's hopefully going to show throughout this.
Yeah.
That you're going to see that we are just 2 people who really, really love movies, and we love to share that passion with people. So hopefully you stick around and hear some of the good, I don't know, interesting stories we have to tell, and make some cool decisions about what movies you want to watch. Because it's a slog. There's a lot of movies out there, and we're going to help you.
There's so many movies out there, and there's so many movies that people consider important that
aren't.
I wouldn't consider important.
Yeah, that's real.
So, like, just kind of to get into specifics a little bit more, this isn't necessarily like we're going to watch that one French movie that like 3 people have seen that inspired, like that inspired Hitchcock and Kubrick and all of these fun directors.
We're gonna watch Hitchcock and Kubrick.
Yeah.
And
so like, you know, we're gonna dip into movies like 2001 Space Odyssey or Psycho or you know those any of the Tarantinos, which you should definitely watch.
Yeah, it's, you know, movies, we really want to focus on movies that are part of the cultural zeitgeist that, you know, are referenced in most modern things. So you really know, like, is this worth watching, or can I just live with this reference in this one show?
Yeah, so I guess we're just trying to give you a cultural palette.
Yeah, and really help you kind of figure out what's worth spending your time on and what isn't, hopefully.
And again, that's mostly based in our opinion.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Please don't take this too seriously. We're 2 amateurs.
Like, if you want to watch a movie that we tell you not to watch, feel free to watch it.
Go ahead, yeah. And please tell us while we're wrong, but just know that we have a lot of opinions and we will yell at you about them.
Yeah, and like film in general is very subjective, and there's things that speak to some people that don't speak to other people.
Oh yeah, and especially in the last few years with Me Too and with the racism that's unfortunately very, very pervasive in old Hollywood, it's hard to know where to look and what is still good, kind of with modern eyes.
Yeah, and that kind of curtails us into, you know, both the 2 of us have specific interests as far as film goes. Margaret is more on the technical end of it.
Oh yeah,
and she likes the cinematography and the behind the scenes kind of factors, and I like to really think about plot and character analysis and things like that. So it's even here between the 2 of us is 2 different perspectives.
That's true.
And I think that's important as well. Just thinking about perspectives. So yeah, why don't we
get started?
Unless you have something else that you want to add to just an overview of this whole thing.
No, I think that's a good introduction to this. The first movie we're going to talk about is Casablanca, which is from 1942. This is generally hailed as like number 1 or number 2 or tied with Citizen Kane on the lists of best movies of all time. And it is personally, I'm just going to put this out here, this is personally my favorite movie of all time, and also like what I think is the best film ever made, which in our house is a very, very important distinction between like your favorite movie and what is the best movie you've ever seen. Ethan has very disparate opinions on that, but mine luckily is the same movie.
No, like it is I apologize if there's some sonic disturbances to your listening experience, because we do have cats in the room with us, and they might make some noise. But yeah, no, I think it's very important to say, there's a difference between a movie that you can watch basically at any time, in any mood, and a movie that you think is the best movie that was ever made. I think there's a huge difference between those two things. And I wouldn't say that Casablanca is my favorite movie, nor is it the best movie that I've ever seen, but it is...
You're wrong.
Well, again, a difference in opinion, but like... it's a very important movie culturally, and I would have it securely in my top 10, if not in my top 20. I've never actually really sat down and really thought about like the best movies I've ever seen. Yeah. Like I can name like a top 3, but I can't name a top 20. So I can't securely say where Casablanca would fit, but it would be up there because it is. We literally are coming right off of just watching.
We just finished watching it, yeah.
And I think it's extremely, extremely good and extremely important to the culture.
Shall I read a plot synopsis really quick?
Go ahead and do that.
Okay,
yeah,
so this is just off IMDb, which is my favorite place, and we're going to use IMDb a lot for this, so get ready to be tired of hearing me say IMDb.
Yeah, so if you want to like sponsor us or anything,
please,
like we'd love that.
All right, here's a plot synopsis. Hot, fresh for y'all. In World War II, Casablanca, which is in northern Africa, in Morocco, Rick Blaine, exiled American and former freedom fighter, runs the most popular night spot in town. The cynical lone wolf Blaine comes into possession of 2 valuable letters of transit. When Nazi Major Strasser arrives in Casablanca, the sycophantic,
yeah. It's a difficult word.
Cut all that out. The sycophantic police captain Reno does what he can to please him, including detaining a Czechoslovak underground leader, Victor Laszlo. Much to Rick's surprise, Laszlo arrives with Ilsa, Rick's one-time lover. Rick is very bitter towards Ilsa, who ran out on him in Paris, but when he learns she had good reason to, they plan to run off together using the letters of transit. Well, that was their original plan. ...
Yes.
Okay, so this movie includes Humphrey Bogart as Rick Blaine, Ingrid Bergman as Ilsa Lund, Paul Henreid as Victor Laszlo, Claude Rains as Captain Louis Reno. I guess that's all I really feel like naming.
And also, the guy who plays Ugarte is also a big name too.
Peter Lorre, yeah.
Yeah, Peter Lorre.
Dooley Wilson as Sam.
You may have also seen him in
Arsenic and Old Lace.
And I feel like there's another movie too.
Yeah.
Does he voice Winnie the Pooh or something?
No, he is also in The Maltese Falcon and M.
Kind of a droopy-eyed, long-faced
You know this man when you see him. That's for real.
Yeah, he's definitely very unmistakable.
Very specific look to him, but he's great in everything. I love him.
He's very good.
Yeah.
Very good. Especially loved him in Arsenic and Old Lace, which is something we'll have to touch on in the future.
Oh yeah, that'll be a good Halloween episode.
Oh yeah, Halloween is coming up.
Yeah.
So one thing we'll probably figure out a few different like bits that we can do and like segments we could talk about, but one that we definitely know that we want to do is. Usually when we're watching these movies, Margaret is just glued to her phone reading the trivia facts from IMDb.
That's
so we
real.
figured we'd feature some of her favorite ones from this one. So what are some of the crazy IMDb facts that come from Casablanca?
This one is very obvious and incredibly important, and it's true. I am obsessed with IMDb trivia. Like, literally, no matter what we were watching, I'm gonna read the trivia facts. It's bad.
She's been deep diving Seinfeld right now, and
it's
there's
so good.
There's so many interesting things.
I love Seinfeld because there's like a whole page of trivia for every episode.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. Okay, but back to Casablanca. This first trivia piece is so obvious. It's pretty well known, and I hope you know this. I just want to repeat again. This is made in 1942. In the height of the war, this really matters that they made this movie because it's so very clearly anti-Nazi. And in the famous scene where they sing the Les Marseillaise, am I saying that?
The Marseillaise.
Thank you. is sung over the German song Watch on the Rhine. Many of the extras had real tears in their eyes. A large number of them were actual refugees from Nazi persecution in Germany and elsewhere in Europe, and were overcome by the emotions the scene brought out. And Ethan said earlier, he wrote it down in his notes.
Yeah, it's definitely in my notes. We can go ahead and talk about it already.
If there's one scene at all you should see, it's this one, where they sing the French national anthem over these Germans in a saloon, because it's so powerful, because you can tell, like, these people break character and really break down. And it's like, I mean, this emotion is how many years old, and it's still like, it gets you in your guts every time.
Right, yeah. I mean, it's just the people reacting to, like, the writers and directors, you know, they created this kind of dream sequence for these people that were running away from the war. And so it was very important to them in that scene, and it creates a very powerful scene. Mm-hmm. And it's not even a long scene.
No, it's really short.
It's like 2 or 3 minutes, but it still has a lot of power to it.
Yeah, and in fact, there's a whole other little tidbit in here. Let me see.
And that's on my pros list for this movie, so yeah.
Actually, another little tidbit, it's the first trivia fact. Many of the actors who played Nazis were in fact German Jews who had escaped from Nazi Germany, which, and again, like, there are a lot of refugees in the making of this film. And the reason is because it goes into my next favorite little trivia piece, which is, although this was an overtly anti-Nazi film, it wasn't the first one Warner Brothers had made. It had come out several years after Confessions of a Nazi Spy, which is in 1939. Warner Brothers was the first Hollywood studio to be so open about its opposition to the Nazi regime, and the first to prohibit its films from being distributed in Nazi-occupied territories. Indeed, Harry M. Warner was making speeches denouncing Nazi activities in Germany as early as 1936. And I love this movie for that reason. Mm-hmm. Like, this movie in and of itself is an act of rebellion, because it's so very much, like Victor Laszlo says towards the end, like, I know our side is going to win. And he is one of the leaders of the French resistance. Like, he very much is anti-Nazi. He truly believes that they're going to win. But this is made in a time when they literally, nobody knows what the outcome of this war is going to be. Mm-hmm. And
America is fresh to the war.
Fresh in the war, yeah. And, you know, had it gone any other way, this movie would have been destroyed because of the propaganda-like nature of it.
It is extremely, it has kind of the vibe of just general propaganda, because it has that, you know, it just has that vibe. It's with the La Marseillaise theme, and just the fact that Nazis are the bad guys, which, I mean, as we all know now in 2020, the Nazis are the bad guys, I think, but we're not going to bring politics into this. So, but yeah, and especially in a time when America, I mean, you talk about Confessions of a Nazi Spy being the first one that Warner Brothers came out with.
In 1939.
That's still a time when, and even in 1942, there are Americans that still think that we should be in the war. Yeah. And that we shouldn't be involved in European politics. And in fact, like, and that's post... that's post Pearl Harbor.
And in fact, there's like a line where Reno teases Rick about, like, you can't be an isolationist forever. Mm-hmm. And that's really meant for American audiences, because Rick says over and over and over again, I stick my neck out for nobody. Because he doesn't. In the beginning of the film, like, it's a big deal that he does anything to help anybody, because towards the beginning, he's like, absolutely not. I'm not fucking doing that.
He's very neutral in the beginning, and we could talk. I want to talk more about the propaganda nature of this film later, but let's finish up with the facts first.
Yeah. This is kind of fun. This is just a fun thing, because there's not, like, we're being very serious right now, so I want to take it down a little bit. The difference in height between Humphrey Bogart and Ingrid Bergman changes throughout the film. This is because Bergman was actually a few inches taller than Bogart, though to create the illusion that it was vice versa, Michael Curtiz, the director, had Bogart stand on boxes and sit on pillows in some shots, or had Bergman slouch down as evident when she sits on the couch in the Frank for Your Thoughts scene. And, like, he had lifts in his shoes and everything. Like,
that's crazy, because I will talk about this later too, I hope, but there's no... In 1942 Hollywood, is there anyone that's, like, more of, like, the icon of masculinity
for real
than Humphrey Bogart? and he is standing on boxes like Jason Alexander or something.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
really funny.
$100,000 insurance policy was taken out on the film's leading player, Humphrey Bogart, in case he died during production.
It must have been a really dangerous setting.
Well, yeah, okay, so the only, there's another little piece that the only set that was actually made for the movie was Rick's Cafe, because the rest of it, because of limitations on, like, war production and stuff, they had to recycle sets from other stuff.
Right.
So the only one that was actually made for the movie was Rick's Cafe America.
I mean, it's a big set, too.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
I mean, I think... I don't know, I don't have a lot of experience in this, but, like, I think it rivals really only, like, the Rear Window set.
Oh my god, the Rear Window set. That's
like
going to have to be a whole episode.
It's like the icon of, like, set design.
For me, especially, yeah, that's number one in my book of, like, the best set design ever.
So, why don't we... That's good. I love those facts.
Thank you.
Especially
the
I can't believe he's so short.
Yeah,
anyway.
I know, right? Isn't that great?
I'm sure it didn't affect his attitude at all.
I love the fact that so the on-screen chemistry between Humphrey Bogart and Ingrid Bergman is kind of legendary. And in fact, his wife at the time, who was not Lauren Bacall yet, so don't get excited. I did not know that until tonight. But she kept accusing of Ingrid and Humphrey of having an affair, but they like never talked to each other off set. And when they did, it was mostly about getting out of making this movie, because I love that. I love the fact that this movie was fucking chaotic to make, and we really kind of ignore that when we talk about this golden film and how perfect it is, because in the middle of making it, like, they were constantly doing rewrites. They were flying by the seat of their pants the whole time they were making this movie.
There was really like one industry that was flourishing.
And they were constantly under rewrites. The scripts they had made no sense. They were under all this pressure, and it was really just like,
and that's impressive considering how just thoroughly composed the script is
and how well edited together it was.
Oh, yeah.
And in fact, there was a little trivia piece about
it's a very consistent movie.
Yeah, which is crazy when you think about what was going on in the actual filming of it. There's one little trivia fact that they talk about, like, Humphrey Bogart one day was called onto set to just kind of nod at the band, and he had no idea what it was about, but it's for the Les Marzilles scene, where he's... please correct me.
I won't ruin your French diction.
Please do it. I hate French. I'm so sorry, everybody. I'm really bad at pronouncing it. But when he's nodding the okay for the band to sing the French national anthem, I'm just going to stick with that.
Go with that one, yeah.
But he had no idea what he was nodding for. He was just told to go out on set and nod, which is great. Yeah, so he's just nodding.
So you're just going to nod?
Okay.
Okay, I don't...
Yeah.
Anyway. So why don't we get into... Do you want to start with cons, or do you want to start with pros?
Let's start with cons so I can shoot them all down one by one.
Yeah, well, and it's not just that this movie is, like I said, very well put together, very well edited. The script is, for all of its faults during production,
it's
very
beautiful.
Thorough. But there are a few things I feel like when you view them in a modern lens might have an issue. And one thing that I kind of want to touch back on was the fact that it can be viewed, I think, nowadays as a propaganda film.
Yeah.
Not just for the American effort, but I think for the Allied effort.
Oh, no. Anti-Nazism.
I know, it's like, but if you think about it in 1942, or even before the war started, if this movie came out before that, kind of the moral implications of film's role in political decisions, in foreign affairs, or anything like that. I think this movie, though, is, you see something like, and I'm just going to pull this one out of the hat because it's the only propaganda film I can think of right now, with Birth of a Nation, which is, kind of the reason that the Ku Klux Klan got restarted after Reconstruction. And so you kind of look at the moral implications of a propaganda film and what it can do to an actual real life society. I think with this one, though, with Casablanca, it can be viewed as a propaganda film, but it's very subtle in that it's more about Rick and Elsa than it is about
very much
the war effort.
Yeah, if you try to focus more on the war efforts, you lose everything that's golden and perfect about the movie. And I have to say, in defense of it, In my opinion, and when I was in theater a lot more, we were taught that the theater is meant to be a mirror held up to reflect society. And I think this does a great job of showing, like, this shows the true refugee kind of circular hellscape that was going on in Europe at this time. And it also shows, like, it takes these three, really, people and shows you what could have been. Like, the situation was real, but the characters were fiction. And that's my favorite way to tell a story.
The war serves more as a setting than it does as a topic, I guess. So, like, as far as, like, considering it to be a propaganda film, and propaganda films in general can be problematic.
Yeah, but
even, like, I would even consider even, like, something like Captain America to be quasi-propaganda.
I mean, yeah.
But that's a different topic for a different day. But this being an older movie, it's difficult to view certain things with a modern lens. Like,
you have to get her.
I know she's being real.
She's doing that thing where she's under.
She's doing that thing where she doesn't get a lot of attention, and so she's like acting
I'm gonna
up
destroy
to get
my house.
Attention.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was going to mention Yvonne. The character of Yvonne. And if you watch the movie, Yvonne was not in the synopsis that we just talked about, but Yvonne is a very minor character.
She is, but she's great.
At the very beginning, is shown to be not necessarily a very serious love interest, like a one-night stand.
I would not say a love interest. I would just say like
a one-night stand for Rick, really.
If that, I want to question if they ever even had sex.
They probably didn't.
Yeah, knowing Rick, I'm like, eh.
Yeah, I especially after Paris, Rick was definitely only interested in one woman.
And I just think that she was just a girl, like a child at the bar in love with a man. And he never really gave her anything serious. I do want to say, though, I just read in the trivia. We're going to hear that a lot. That's going to be the first
like a
T-shirt.
When I get a soundboard, I'm going to push that button. The first thing I read in the trivia.
Is her and the bartender, Sasha, were actually married French refugees.
That makes a lot of sense.
Doesn't it? Yeah.
Which is weird because they said Sasha was Russian. But, that actually makes a lot of sense. Their chemistry was just very, very good.
They were
very
actually
good
man and wife,
yeah. But Yvonne and even Ilsa and the other women that are in the other woman that the Bulgarian
the young girl,
kind of brings into the question of the role of women in this movie. They're kind of plot devices and not necessarily full-fledged characters.
Oh, I disagree because they're all very actively trying to fight for their freedom.
I disagree about Elsa. I don't disagree about the other women.
You don't think Ilsa's
You said yourself. No, I think Ilsa's a different beast altogether. Okay. But I think you said yourself that Yvonne really is a character that can be written out.
That's true. She could. She very much could. If
there's
one woman who can be written out for sure, it's the woman who plays the guitar like a crackhead.
You are very right. You are very right.
And I'm so sorry if you see that.
It's a beautiful song.
It's a beautiful song, but there's this woman who plays the guitar by strumming just the neck, and it's infuriating.
Very odd. I have something written here.
It bothered me even as a child when I saw this movie. I was like, "What is she doing?"
Okay. I do have something here about Elsa that is kind of an extension of this question that I asked. I know and I said it's not ideal for our current landscape to be like a woman who is like love struck and that's like her only defining characteristic. But Ilsa, in the way that Ingrid Bergman played her, is, by the way, if you need a masterclass in acting, like Ingrid Bergman movies, you've got.
Incredible.
I don't want to jump ahead to our rating for this
but she's probably
Ingrid is a beautiful actress.
For sure in my top 3 favorite actresses
she's very,
of all
very
time.
Good. She's very, very good. But I think she represents a woman who is just head over heels and it's totally blindsided her and she didn't even expect to find it, and that can be very confusing and that can be very difficult to process, especially if you're a married woman like Ilsa is. And I guess that can also be kind of a con
Yeah.
If you're going to be a prude about it.
The thing about Ilsa is, and this whole movie, and I said to Ethan earlier this evening, the thing about this movie is it is the most perfect love triangle I have ever seen on film.
Yes.
Because the thing is you want to discount Victor Laszlo immediately just for the fact of him not being Rick. But he is a good man who legitimately loves Ilsa and even like gives Ilsa and Rick the opportunity to get out without him and like live their lives. And he, you know, tells Ilsa like, if you loved someone else while you thought I was dead, please just like, please know I don't hold it against you. And like he and Rick even have very open, honest conversations with each other where they see eye to eye as two men.
Oh, yeah.
And there's like nothing problematic about these three people.
No, like that's what's so weird about this movie is it's made so long ago.
Yeah.
There's a lot of these different issues that we tackle with today with Me Too and you know, I can't think of any other movements.
But like, you know, like adultery through and through, and
like you see how adultery is portrayed throughout
all
cinema,
of literature,
throughout the golden age,
yeah.
throughout the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, you know, up to today.
In Ilsa's defense, she did think Victor was dead.
It's all so toxic.
Yeah.
And this is a situation where it's what I was more okay. It's more it's just a lot of just garbled talk there. Yeah, it speaks more to Ilsa's character that, you know, and Ingrid's performance is that she's just she's very genuine in how she deals with her emotions.
Yeah.
And so is Rick, and so is Victor.
Yeah, and I think the thing is like, for Ilsa, the dichotomy is being caught between passion and obligation.
Yeah.
And
Laszlo's just not really ideal for her.
No, because he, you know, he's this great leader of the French resistance, and he means so much to so many people, whereas Rick and Ilsa kind of only have each other that they matter to. Like, Victor Laszlo is this great, important figure. He would, you know, be able to get someone else immediately, but he loves Ilsa, and, like, at first you're like, oh, she doesn't matter to him and all this stuff, but you find out as he talks to Rick that she really does matter, and you know, as they've been trying to get out of Europe, he's had plenty of opportunities to leave her behind, and he never had because he loves her.
Right.
And it's such a tough situation.
But everyone is also at the same time being extremely genuine.
Yeah, very much.
With their emotions.
Yeah.
Even if they're still playing the verbal chess.
Yeah, which is so great about this.
Like no one explicitly says anything like, you slept with my wife.
Oh yeah, there's
like
nothing awful
it's nothing
like
explicit,
that.
and but they all kind of are on the same page, and they all have an agreement.
They're all very mature adults, and the thing about Rick Blaine is the first time you see him, he is playing chess with himself. He's a chess player, and so he's very good about, you know, like guarding his words. He never drinks with his patrons. He sticks his neck out for nobody
until Ilsa comes in.
Well, yeah, because
all the gen joints in all the world.
The thing is because before Ilsa, he had been this freedom fighter, and the pain that she caused him sent him to Casablanca, where he just ran a gin joint and he didn't care. Yeah, he just did not care. He kind of shut himself off from the world.
That does actually kind of lead me into my next con or modern lens. Is there something to be said about Rick's isolationism? And I know that it's supposed to be representative of America's isolationism.
Yeah.
But, like, in this day and age, especially in 2020, you know, Godspeed to everyone dealing with 2020 right now.
Oh, man.
Including us.
Yeah.
Is there something to be said about that? Like, I think that maybe if Rick has one flaw, it's that he remains neutral on issues that are really important.
I think the thing is different, though. I don't think he's being an isolationist there. I think he's literally playing the chess game. And the thing is, Rick is lost a few times before he ends up in Casablanca. Like, he can never go back to America. He, you know, they have this whole dossier on him about him running guns to these losing sides and having these issues. But he hires these people. Like, he has the #1 banker in Amsterdam as a pastry chef. And when the cafe gets shut down, he makes sure that everybody still has a salary. And so I think he's recognizing his limited power. And he is playing chess, essentially, with this kind of unwinnable fascist world that he's living in, and he's trying to get those small victories that he can without sticking his neck out for things that he knows are going to lose, like
Yeah.
Ugarte and these letters of transit. He ends up with these letters of transit, but he lets Ugarte get arrested right in front of him because he knew from the get-go, the moment that Reno is in the cafe that night, he knows Ugarte is not going to live through the night.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, which is a shame because that actor's very good, and I love watching
yeah.
him. But yeah, so what you're saying essentially is that his isolationism is just more of a human trait. That it's a human reaction to having a broken heart.
Yeah, and I think it's more of like a learned kind of wisdom in this world.
It's that classic, well, I'm never going to love again trope a little bit.
Well, it's more than that, though, because, like, this is a man who has lost a few times, whereas, like, Victor Laszlo is very famously, like, put in jail, put in concentration camps over and over and over again, and sticks his neck out all the time, and has miraculously lived, whereas Rick has really, really, really lost a few times.
I would consider that being locked in a concentration camp would be considered losing.
Okay, but he escaped that concentration camp like a badass.
The last kind of modern issue I want to talk about
is Sam?
It's not, well, maybe we should talk about Sam for a second. Maybe we should end that in the con section with that. But the only other thing besides Sam, that I had a little bit of concern about for like a modern audience is the fact that this takes place in Africa. And so there's a little bit of a colonialism issue with it, because this is American, it's French. First of all, it's French Morocco. And this is an American cafe and these white people are...
Okay, but there are people of all nationalities present in this cafe. If you're watching closely,
but for the most part, the majority of people enjoying and being patrons of Rick's Cafe are Europeans. And as difficult as that is to kind of swallow, especially in the modern times, you do have to kind of remember that this is a movie of its time.
Yeah,
and it is still saying a lot about the nature of the world while telling a love story. The main focus isn't necessarily Casablanca and Morocco and the problems that surround the world.
Oh, yeah, very much.
It's about Ilsa and Rick. And kind of Victor.
Victor's
there too.
It's really Ilsa, Rick, and unfortunately Victor.
And unfortunately Victor. Victor does find love, in my opinion, eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah, anyway, we'll get off that. We don't want to do any spoilers.
But yeah, I mean, the thing is this is very much a product of its time. And also, from the beginning, we are told this is a story of refugees in a time of, major displacement. Which is crazy to me that people, can love this movie and still, have the beliefs they do. Because this is very, anti-Nazi, pro-immigration,
Oh, you mean those people?
Those people,
I'm sitting here going, what kind of people is she talking about?
Yeah, very much. Because it takes some very clear stances, and yet people want to ignore those, which is crazy to me.
You did bring up Sam.
Yeah, all right, let's talk about Sam.
Sam's character, I think, on the surface level.
If you want to take it surface level.
Yeah, we're speaking as two white people.
And
so we might not have the best... We might not have the best perspective on this trope. But Sam, if you didn't catch it earlier, is Rick's piano. I guess you call him the club pianist.
Well, he's
the
lead entertainer of Rick's Cafe.
He's the black performer. Yeah. And if you were going to fit him into a trope, it would be the black best friend trope.
Yeah.
If you think about Iron Man, be War Machine, or The Incredibles, Frozone would be the example of that.
Yeah, if you want to throw him in as the token. But the thing is, so this is played by Dooley Wilson. I want to say that.
Played very well by Dooley Wilson.
Beautifully by Dooley Wilson. And you could really reduce him to that token black character. But
his dialogue does kind of, it's a product of the time.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
So there are a lot of reasons that it fits into that, but there are a lot of reasons why Rick and Sam's relationship is unique.
Good. It's great. Unique. One of the most important scenes, I think, that deals with Sam is the guy who owns the competing cafe, the Blue Parrot, comes to Rick and says, I want to buy your cafe. Rick says, no, not for any price. And he's like, well, how about Sam? And Rick says...
Rick gives Sam the option.
No, Rick first says, I don't buy or sell human beings.
That is one of the quotes I put down.
Is that exactly what it says? I want to get it right.
He says, I don't buy or sell human beings.
Okay, good. Okay, good. That's really important
And
to me.
I wouldn't trust how well I transcripted quotes. So,
but no, he very clearly states, like, because the guy from the Blue Parrot tries to deal with just Rick about buying Sam for the Blue Parrot. And he's like, no, absolutely not. Let's go talk to Sam. I don't buy or sell human beings. They ask Sam, and you know, the guy from the Blue Parrot tries to say, oh, I'll pay you more, and he's like, oh, I don't even have time to spend what I make here. He makes good money. He makes, like, later in the film you learn he earns 10% of the profits of the whole cafe,
which I don't really know.
That's a good split when you think about how huge
even with, I mean, you think about how huge, like, I guess it's a good
staff,
split.
Yeah,
and you think about how big the staff is.
Yeah, it's a pretty
also,
big staff, and
like,
he's getting 10% of it.
Yeah,
but he makes, like, Rick brokers a deal for him to get 25% when he's supposedly leaving. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But also, like, in general, like, even I don't know what the stats are for what African American performers were making at that time. That's probably exceedingly good. But and we are talking about Casablanca, Morocco, outside of the United States.
Yeah, and I think that's a very big difference, is because if Sam were still in America, the odds are very high he would have been
not making a lot, not making as much.
No, he would have been drafted in the war. The odds are high there, or just been in a performing band that didn't really do much. But here, he had a lot of personal autonomy and freedom, I would argue. It could be easily argued another way, but the thing is I deeply love Sam, and I think his and Rick's friendship matters, and I just don't want it to be reduced to this like tokenism and like I see how it could be, but Sam is such an iconic character, and Sam and Dooley Wilson plays him so beautifully. Like, you get all the music in the film from him, basically. A
surface level observation would just say, like, this is a token character, but Sam in Paris is looking out for Rick.
He's with
Rick,
Paris.
Rick, Rick hires all these different people to fill his bar, but the person he cares the most about in that bar is Sam. And so Sam's very important to him, and I think that relationship transcends racial divides and it transcends everything. It's just another notch in Rick's corner.
In Rick's very favor. Much. Yeah, and I think this is a character who matters. Very, and like, I appreciate that Rick, and I would argue Ilsa isn't quite as great about this, but Rick treats him like a human being every single time he talks to him. Yeah. And I just love that, because I think Sam is such a great character. He's so iconic. He really matters, and he loves Rick. He
genuinely has a friendship with Rick.
Very genuinely. They really care about each other.
And that's really what transcends.
begs Ilsa to get out the minute she walks into that cafe.
Yeah, that's a wingman. That's a wingman for life. And so why don't we move on to pros? I mean, that category already kind of seemed like pros, but it was really just more like things, and that's kind of what I want to bring to this podcast. If I could just step out of the scene for just a second, is kind of what I want to bring to this podcast. There are a lot of things that a lot of people will look at older movies especially, and be like, well, this is problematic, so I shouldn't see it. And what it really just takes, sometimes, and I would say the majority of the time, that is probably the case. White people are going to do what white people are going to do, okay?
Yeah, that's real.
But with this movie specifically, especially, and with other movies, from Alfred Hitchcock, and we keep mentioning Hitchcock.
We'll get to him. Hitchcock. Yeah, we really do.
But, even with other older movies, like, there's more of a depth to some of these characters than just tokenism or anything like that. So I think it's extremely important to look at these concerns and to address them.
Yeah, very much.
And to see whether or not that's right, like, it is tokenism, or what, maybe it's not actually that.
Yeah, and especially in this instance, it could be tokenism, but
I'll be honest, I totally flipped on, like, coming into the movie tonight, just watching it, I was like, Sam, it's with the perspective of race that I have now, living in 2020. It would be like, it's easy for me to be cynical about Sam.
Yeah, it's easy to be so cynical about characters of color in old movies. Yes. It's so easy, and to be dismissive of them. But the thing I fear most about that is like taking away from these performances of these historically black actors, because how do we rectify the fact that they were able to attain success in such a racist system, and like still
Even
give them
they
the
were
credit
being taken advantage
yeah
of,
even if they were taken advantage of,
they're still like one of the first black people on screen, so that's important.
and to play such a incredible character,
but also to talk about misogyny and capitalism.
It matters. It very much matters, but it's so hard to balance that while still giving credit and honoring these historical actors of color playing incredible characters within the boundaries that they had to live.
Why don't we talk about pros?
Okay.
And I'll let you lead the pros list, because apparently I was the only one that wrote a cons list.
I did not write down any cons. That's true.
I mean, I think every movie has some, spots where you can trip up, but I'm glad that we talked about those. Let's talk about pros.
Okay,
what are the pros of this movie?
So I forgot to mention this in the introduction, but I have 2 degrees in history. I have a very deep love for military history specifically, and a lot of the times when I was in military history, we would talk about this film just because of the accuracy with which World War II is portrayed, because it's filmed while World War II is going on. And especially like the very beginning, the Gestapo leader gets off the plane and they're all greeted by the Vichy France people, and then there's an Italian who tries to speak in, and they're all just like, shut up.
Push the Italian away. They're like, we know you're not a threat. It's
like even in 1942, they were like, well, Italy's not going to actually do much.
Italy's not relevant.
Yeah.
Go make an opera.
It's so good. I want to talk about like iconic quotes from this movie, because there are so
I have a good
many
list of quotes.
Yeah.
You have like a top 5 list, or do you just write the whole movie down?
It's hard not to write the whole movie down.
She's literally quoting the movie as we're watching it.
It's true.
Which is fun sometimes.
It's not always the best. I can't help myself.
No, like if it's a quotable movie, you just can't help.
And this movie, I know because I love it so much. And it's so, in my opinion, it's so well written because everybody's kind of playing verbal tennis or chess with each other.
What's really weird is the movie has a very serious tone, but it's also just strangely so funny.
Yeah, there are some very funny moments and very funny quotes you could pull from it. Like, people are very witty in their conversation with each other, which I think is something very much missing in dialogue these days.
Yeah, it's that Katharine Hepburn.
Oh yeah, dialogue. There's always this kind of like setup. There's little jokes. There's and like everybody's thinking very deeply as they're talking, which I love.
That Cary Grant.
I did write down this one, which Rick says towards the beginning. He says, "I don't mind a parasite. I object to a cut rate one," which is very relevant to 2020.
The one that made me laugh was when they were reading his dossier, and he goes, "Are my eyes really brown?"
That's such a good one. I stick my neck out for nobody. I've already said that one. Oh, I also want to say that the music in this movie holds up.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, like with most classic movies. But the weird thing about this movie is that the music is like central to it. Like, that's the other thing about the character of Sam is he gets a lot of moments to shine musically. Yeah. And I don't know if he's actually playing the piano.
No, he's not, because he's a drum player.
Yeah, so I was like, I don't know if he's I could kind of tell he's not actually playing the piano. But
but he has these moments.
But yeah,
another great quote is, "Here's looking at you, kid."
Oh, yeah.
We'll always have Paris matters. Of all the towns and of all the gin joints and all the towns in all the world.
I have it word for word right here.
I'm sorry. It's 10 o'clock at night. We're old.
One of my favorite ones from Renault was, "Rick is the kind of man who, if I was a woman, well, I should very much be in love with him."
Oh, yeah.
I just thought it was weird that they could just be like...
best. No, I don't think it's... I think it's, Renault is a very secure human being who...
Renault's bisexual. It's canon.
No. That's a little bit of a leap. I would love to believe that. Yeah. But, actually, in the end... No, I'm not going to spoil it. But Captain Louis Renault is his name. And I have to say, in this last rewatch we just did, he really stuck out to me as, like, one of the funniest, best characters. I mean, there's a part where he is ordered by the Gestapo guy to shut down Rick's cafe. And he's like, just find an excuse. So Renault is like, "I am shocked to find gambling happening here tonight." And then a waiter comes up and is like, "Here's your winnings, sir." Like, it's hilarious.
He's a very good character. Yeah. But, one of the quotes I really liked from Victor Laszlo, though, was he says it's along these lines. I don't know if I got it word for word, but he says to Rick, "You seem to think of me as a victim of a cause, but I'm also a human being." Mm-hmm. And you're kind of talking in reference to Ilsa. Yeah. And I think that's a very important line just in general. Mm-hmm. And that seems like a stupid, like, middle school way to say it. But, like, you know, everyone's a human being.
Yeah, and I think it really, like, because the first few scenes, especially of Rick and Ilsa, you're trying, like, your instinct is to hate Victor. Like, how dare he exist? How dare he be this person that's keeping these two people apart? Yeah. But then, like...
You
very talk difficult. To him, and you're added this third dimension, like, oh, he's a human being too,
so difficult.
Feelings and emotions, yeah, which is frustrating in itself that you can't. Well, you want to hate him and you can't.
I mean, he is innately a revolutionary.
Yeah,
and it's hard to hate a revolutionary.
It really is.
I mean, it can be easy because they can very quickly take it over.
Well, he's a revolutionary of a noble cause. Exactly. That in this time period it was made even. You did not know if they were going to win. Right. Which I think makes it all the more noble in his portrayal. Right. It's beautiful.
I think maybe everyone, not to get political, but maybe everyone should see Casablanca.
I really do. This is absolutely...
Just for some perspective on Nazism.
Yeah.
For some reason, I have the character of Sam as a token best friend in the pros category. We talked about music. Well, just a kind of a subtle nod to... We've already praised... Ingrid Bergman enough tonight, but there was just a couple of scenes where I noticed just the silent facial acting.
Oh, Humphrey. Ingrid, okay.
Well, Humphrey too, but mostly Ingrid Bergman. I think it was the scene where Sam was playing
her eyes
as time goes by.
Yeah. Her eyes in this movie
kind of
are...
like, you could just kind of see you could see it on her face.
Yeah, she has this beautiful, I want to call it like a superpower. She has these incredible eyes in this film, and they're huge and sparkly, and you can literally watch them fill with tears in scenes. And it's not even that she actually gets to the point of crying, but you watch her eyes fill with tears over the pain of what she's dealing with, and you feel all of these emotions right alongside her.
Yeah, and Bogart's not to be outdone because he just has,
he's
such
incredible.
a knack for just looking forlorn.
Yeah,
and I have that in all caps on my. He's just like when he's drinking after Ilsa came in the first night. He's just so like it's the weight of the world just on his face, not just his shoulders, but his face. It's sagging his cheeks and. It's good stuff.
You can see that it's like taking it out of him and like just how worn through he is just by the like possibly. Okay, 30 seconds he sees her, he is absolutely undone. And I even want to, there's one more trivia I wanted to see. I can't remember. Oh, okay. This is just one last trivia, and it goes along with like famous quotes and stuff. This is just so funny to me. Rick never actually says, quote, "Play it again, Sam." He says, "You played it for her, you can play it for me. If she can take it, I can take it, so play it."
With the fist pound and everything.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's so good. Ilsa says, "Play it, Sam. Play as time goes by." The incorrect line has become the basis for spoofs in movies such as A Night in Casablanca from 1946 and Play It Again, Sam in 1972. And I guess I kind of want to finish this up with just one little thing that you hear about it basically every 5 to 10 years in media, where some fucking idiot comes around to all the production companies and is like, "Let's make Casablanca again." And let me just say, beg you from the bottom of my heart, please, please don't do that.
I agree with you. I agree with you. But I was watching it this time through, watching Renault. I'm like, Harvey Keitel could do that.
I mean,
he would do an excellent job.
But who could be Ilsa? Who could be Rick?
Literally
no
one else could replace. Well,
but also, like, who could replace the chemistry and the urgency with which this film is made? There's this undercurrent of fear and true urgency, and
if we don't make this film, we're gonna lose the war.
Well, really, like, if the war goes poorly, we are going to get killed for making this film.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That kind of energy.
Well, and also probably because a lot of the people behind the film were Jewish.
Yeah, very much. And a lot were refugees of Nazi Germany and the Nazi occupations in Europe. And I I just don't think that we could ever capture that again.
For sure.
So please, from the bottom of my heart, do not ever remake or try to sequel or prequel any of it. Just leave it alone.
Yeah, I also think that... Well, let me ask you first.
Okay.
This kind of round up the episode. Is this something you should put on your list?
This is
I already know the answer, but I want you to say it.
This is an absolute must-watch.
Oh, yeah.
If you are a breathing human being, I think you need to have seen Casablanca at least once in your life.
I have to agree.
Yeah.
And sometimes we may not agree. But in this
instance, one, we agree.
I definitely agree. I think even today it has relevancy. And I think even
crazy.
In 20 years it'll have relevancy. And it'll always be relevant, and it will always be kind of a standard.
Yeah, because it's not only a standard, I think it's a snapshot of this time. Mm-hmm. In one of the most tumultuous, scary times to have ever been a human, this perfect love story was written and made, and it's never going to change. I don't think it's ever going to lose its relevance, or even just its, like, I don't know, it's magic, honestly. Because if the war aspect of it ever becomes irrelevant, the love story will never not be important.
Yeah.
And vice versa. If the love story ever becomes not important, there's still that aspect of the war in the background that is so important.
Right, yeah. It makes the bold claim that Nazis are bad.
Yeah, but it also tells this
but it also tells a
beautiful story.
A beautiful love story, and with something I don't think you see very often, and I think one of the most important features of this film, as far as someone who appreciates character development and plot, something you don't see very often is a positive male role model.
Oh, yeah.
In this show.
And that is Rick Blaine.
I think, is rival only to Jean-Luc Picard in the positive male role model.
Music to my ears.
I know. And that's an opinion. That's an opinion I'm stealing from you. But, so I do think it's a must-watch, and I think, especially if you're planning on getting into film or writing or anything like that,
or even just casually being a citizen of the world,
even just trying to raise your cultural profile.
Yeah, just give yourself how long is it? A couple hours?
It's probably like I'm sure IMDb has the exact time.
It does.
So.
Please just give yourself the gift of...
Yeah.
How long is it? It's not saying.
I don't know. Is it also... I should look that up. Is it available...
Oh, an hour and 42 minutes long.
Give yourself... DVD.
Mm-hmm. Which we'll happily lend out to people.
We will, if you know us.
Yeah, we'll happily lend it to you.
We would love to lend it to you.
It's on Amazon.
It's on HBO Max and Amazon.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
And it's on YouTube and iTunes. And so it is readily available.
For streaming, yeah.
For streaming.
And just, give yourself that gift. Give yourself an hour and 45 minutes. And I know, this was one of the first black and white movies I ever saw. And if you've never done that before, it can feel like a heavy thing to take on. You're like, oh, this is going to be a lot. But I promise you, if you just, put down your phone and give it just a modicum of your attention, you're going to be rewarded so much by how much you learn and take away from how films used to be made. And just this film in general, it's incredible. And the gifts it can give you, wow, it's so worth it.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to wrap it up, too.
Yeah. So thank you guys so much for listening. Thanks for, getting on this train ride of listening to us rant about my favorite movie ever.
We are fast forwarding a little bit through film history next week when we watch it's not my favorite movie, but it is the best movie I've ever seen.
And I haven't seen it yet.
Which is Apocalypse Now.
Yeah.
So good.
So
Marlon
good.
Brando is such a gem in that movie. He's only in it for 20 seconds.
Yeah.
Not 20 minutes. But, oh, wow. Such a good movie.
So, yeah, that'll be next week. Please.
I'm very excited.
So, thank you so much for listening. And we will see you next week. So, get some popcorn ready, y'all.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.